Okay guys, we're going to talk about camera safety today. You're going to watch this video, learn about how to properly use our cameras. You will then take a quiz, and passing that quiz will then take you to meet with Sophie or myself for an additional quick camera training session, and then you will be allowed to check out our cameras for shooting events, which are starting next week. So we definitely want to get you guys out with cameras in your hands. So we talked about great composition with cameras that can be done with any style of camera, and I hope that through the assignment that I've given you that you now understand that it's more than just running around with a cool camera, that you need to think through your pictures, and that's going to be no different with the cameras that we're going to give you. There are some things that are different about these cameras. Number one, that they're extremely expensive and they need to be treated like small children, like babies, like you would handle them with extraordinary care. And so it is my hope that you will do that. And so one of the first things we're going to talk about is the easiest and safest way to keep the camera protected at all times. And I'm going to get that for you now. That is the camera strap. The number one rule in our class is that the camera strap be around your neck at all times. At all times. Not just some of the time. Not, I'm in the classroom now, so I'll take it off and carry it around. Any time that you are using this camera until the minute that you put it back in its bag, only then will you take the strap off and put the camera back into the bag. At every other moment, the first thing you will do is put the strap around your neck. So that is our number one safety rule, is that the strap must be around your neck. If you're caught using the cameras without the strap, you will lose the privilege of using the cameras. This is the number one way we keep our cameras from being dropped. Okay, so moving along with that, the next thing I want to show you, and I may need to take the strap off just to show you these features by moving them closer to the webcam. Otherwise, I would always use this neck strap as well. That is that all of these cameras come with a memory card slot. And so you can see here that we have a trap door that opens up and that we have a memory card inside of the camera that looks like this. Okay? And you want to make sure that the card you have in your camera correlates to your type of camera. And if you notice, all of our cameras are labeled. This is B, and this says B on it also, right there. And so we know that they go together. But that'll be our photo manager's responsibility overall. Sometimes photo managers get very busy and they don't finish maybe getting a job done. And so sometimes this card might not be back in the camera. It's really important for you to make sure before you take off for a job that you have a camera card in your camera. So that's one thing you're going to check, okay? And the other thing I want to show you is how to put it in. So when you go to put it in, if it's the wrong way, like I'm doing right now, it doesn't want to go in. I'm not going to push and force it, okay? I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put it in the right way, and notice that it's there. Now, it's not quite all the way in. That is on purpose. It wants you to push, and it makes a little like bouncing motion. And same thing, I push to get it out. So push in, push out. So just again, do not force the card in the wrong way. Please make sure it's the right way, then go ahead and finish it out. Okay, so number one rule, neck strap. Number two rule, do you have a camera card and do you know how to put it in properly and not force it in the incorrect way? Okay, the next thing you're going to want to check is, do you have a battery? Okay, and most of the time the batteries will not be in the cameras because we need to charge the batteries so that they're ready for you when you go out on a shoot. So you almost always will need to get your own battery and put it in. Okay, so you have to know which battery to get. We have some batteries that look like this that go to our Nikon cameras. Okay, the camera I was just holding is a Canon, so it would not be this one. You would want a Canon battery for a Canon camera. And our Canon batteries look like this, and our Canon battery chargers look like this, and you will see them on the wall next to the camera cupboard like this, charging. Simply take it out, get your camera, and you can do this with your neck strap on, and I expect you to do so. Get your battery hub open, and same thing. Pay attention. Look inside the well and notice which way the battery is supposed to go in. Okay, it fits like a puzzle. So I'm going to put it in, push, make sure that we're closed. Okay? Once I have all of that done, I have the neck strap on, I have a camera card in, and I have a battery in. I'm almost ready to go out and shoot. So the next things I am going to do are set my camera appropriately for what I'm going to shoot. I'm also going to take note of the fact that I have a lens cap on my camera. Okay? Hopefully every camera has a lens cap. If you lose a lens cap, we need to know. Okay? And we also need you to try not to lose them. We buy these special straps so that they stay hanging. Okay, and we would prefer that they stay hanging so that they don't get lost, because a lot of times students will throw them in their pockets or set them down somewhere and then they're gone. So please try to keep this attached. Okay, so lens cap off. A couple of things about using a bigger camera. Holding the camera. I use my hand as a tripod to cradle the lens, and then I put the camera to my face and I look through the viewfinder. We don't take pictures with the LCD display screen with large cameras like this. Okay, it's important that we use this like this. Okay, so what do I want to tell you next? The next thing I want to tell you about this is that the viewfinder has a focus button. I'm going to take the strap off again to show you where this is located. The focus button is right here, this little tiny dial right there. And when I turn that little dial, it's kind of like having glasses on or being at the eye doctor and getting to adjust what I see and how clearly I see it. Students will come to me and say everything through the viewfinder is blurry even when the camera says it's focused. That's because your eyepiece is blurry because of setting. So let me put my neck strap back on. So what I'm doing right now is I am adjusting that button while I'm looking through it so that I get the most clear picture of what I'm seeing. When it looks really clear, then I know I'm all set. Okay, so that's the eyepiece focus. Okay, very important component. Okay. All right, I've got a battery, I've got a memory card, I've taken my lens cap off, but I haven't lost it because I'm leaving it dangling. I have my neck strap on. I've focused my eyepiece, so the next thing I want to do is decide what is it that I'm shooting. Okay, if I'm going outdoors, I'm going to have a lot more success with my shooting than maybe indoors, where, especially if I'm shooting action, it can be a lot more challenging. So we're going to talk about that. So outdoor shooting, I can get a lot more available natural light. Cameras love light. Better pictures happen when cameras are in good lighting. So if I'm out going to football, cross country, or anything outdoors, tennis, those types of things, pretty much I'm going to have probably a pretty good shoot, okay, if I do the following things. Number one, if I set my camera to the running man, okay, so on the dial I have a bunch of different settings. I have A, V, TV, P, I have a head, I have a flower, I have a mountain, and then I have a little running dude down there, and that's the guy we want to set for sports action photography. So I'm going to go ahead and switch him to there. I'm going to turn my camera on, and it says right there that I'm in sports mode because I've set it to the running man, so I know I'm set there. Okay. And so what I want to do is make sure that I know how to take a picture of sports. Okay. So when I'm outside taking pictures of sports, I want to try to follow the action, the ball, the whatever is happening, okay? And then I want to try to remember also to get some reaction shots. When I'm taking shots for sports, again, tripod, holding, looking through the viewfinder, a big thing to remember about these cameras is pre-focusing the lens, okay? The shutter button, the button that takes the picture right here, can be pushed down a little bit in order to focus the camera, okay? And so I want to practice doing that and make sure that my camera's lens is completely in focus before I push the button the rest of the way to take the picture. So watch and listen to what happens. I'm hoping that you could hear that little bit of adjustment. Now I've pushed the button the rest of the way to take the photo. So I'm going to do that again. Okay, I'm going to kind of mess with the lens so it has to, okay. I'm waiting, it's done moving. Oh, I can still see it moving just a little bit. Okay. There we go. So I've taken my picture. After I've pushed the button halfway, let it get focused, take my picture. Okay, to review my images, I push this button right here, which is the review button. That's probably pretty standard on all cameras. So I'm reviewing. You can see that my picture is pretty small right here. It's telling me a lot of data and information about my picture. Let's see, how can I make that bigger? If I push the display button 2 or 3 times, I get the rest of my image to show. Display is right here. Okay, so to review, I'm pushing this button, and to display, I'm pushing this button. Okay? All right, what else do I want to talk about? Okay, so that's for sports. We've talked about the settings. Okay, we're going to use the Running Man. Let's say you're coming indoors, though, to shoot sports, okay? That's a different animal and requires a little bit more setting changes, okay? Volleyball can be really challenging to shoot because our available light has just gotten a lot lower, okay? So I'm not going to use the Running Man for that setting, okay? I'm going to go ahead and use AV, okay, which is the aperture setting. So I'm going to use AV if I'm shooting indoors, okay? And I'm also going to set my ISO. Now, ISO in photography is what helps kick up the light when we need more light. And that button is located here on the Canons, and it's in the menu on the Nikons, and I'll show you in just a minute where to find that. So I'm going to push this ISO button, and it gives me choices for ISO, okay? And, oh, I'm going to push it again so it doesn't go away. My choices go from auto, 100, 200, 400, 800, and 1600, okay? Just one second. I gotta get out of that. Oh. Okay. When I'm shooting indoor sports, I need my ISO as high as possible. Here's a question for the quiz. Low lighting or rough lighting equals a high ISO. So if I'm in the gym, I want 1600 ISO. If I'm outside where there's a lot of available light, I want the lowest ISO setting possible, so only like 200. Okay? If I'm in a building and it's pretty well lit, I might want something in the middle. One of the trade-offs with having a high ISO is that it makes your pictures more grainy, which is kind of a bummer. They're not as crisp, they're not as clear, they're not blurry, but they have grain, and I'll show you examples of this in just a moment. I want you to remember that the only time we want those highest ISO pictures is when we absolutely have to have them and we have no choice, meaning the gym, okay? If we're not in the gym, we want the ISO to not be as high as 1600, okay? We might not want it as low as 200 if we're indoors. We probably will want it somewhere in the 600 to 800 range, but that 1600 is really going to make our pictures grainy. We only want to use that if absolutely necessary, okay? Okay, just looking at my little list here to talk with you about. Okay, the zoom and lens, okay? This camera has a small kit lens on it right now that's really nice for taking classroom shots, hallway shots, things like that. What about if I need to get a lot closer to my subject? Well, these Canon cameras come with an extra lens that I'm going to show you right now. Big lens. Okay, this big lens is expensive, okay? It's fragile, it cannot be dropped, it cannot be banged, it cannot be treated poorly, okay? It must be treated very carefully. Switching out the lenses on the camera is not difficult, but it requires you to be careful and it requires practice. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do that right now. So this is like I want to shoot football, I want to shoot. You really don't need this for cross country because runners will be coming at you, so they will pass you on the path if you're positioned correctly. This is like, sometimes volleyball, sometimes basketball, depending on how far away you are. I would actually recommend for volleyball and basketball using one of our Nikons that has a medium range lens. This is really for far away stuff that you can't get closer to, like those football games. So I'm going to set this down for a moment. On my camera there is a lens release button. It is right here. Also notice that my lens has a white triangle on it right here, and that my big lens has a red dot on it that we are going to change from the white square to the red dot. I'm going to set the lens or the camera down onto a stable surface, so on the counter. I'm going to push the button down, twist the lens, remove it, put it immediately into the bag where it is nice and safe and cannot get hurt. I'm going to pick up the other lens. It has a cap on the bottom. Remove it. I will put that on the other lens in a moment. First, I'm going to go ahead and line up the dots on the inside of the camera with the dots on the lens. It's pretty simple. Red dot, red dot. You can feel it go in. Then you need to twist and lock. You need to feel with your hand to make sure it is locked before you let go, or this lens will come collapsing out of the camera, which would be horrible. Okay, now I have this big giant lens, which is awesome. Same thing, I'm going to hold steady. Definitely, we don't want to be trying to take pictures like this. The lens is too heavy. Hold steady. We're going to use our sports mode for outdoor pictures. Camera on. And now pre-focusing and fire. Maybe. What do I got here? There we go. Okay. One thing about our cameras that is fortunate is you can take continuous shots. So once you've focused and you start shooting, you can hold the button down and see what's happening. I'm taking constant pictures. So you can be following that football player, okay, across the field. Okay, boom, 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 okay? Getting lots of pictures. If you don't remember to pre-focus before you hold the button down, you're going to take 25 pictures in a row that are all blurry. So I need you to remember, hold the button down a little bit, make sure it's focused, then fire away, okay? So that's using the big lens, okay? All right, we've talked about settings, we've talked about ISO, so I guess my last couple of reminders are, just to give you a review, strap at all times, know how to put in the memory card, make sure you have a battery, put your lens cap back on when you're done, treat the camera with extraordinary care, know how to change your lenses and care for them properly while you're changing them. Change them back when you are done to the kit lens being on the camera. ISO, low light, high ISO. Gymnasium, 1600. Outside, 200 or 400. Inside, classroom, good light, 400 to 600. The lower the light, the higher the ISO. The reason I don't want a high ISO if I don't need one is because my pictures will have extra grain in them and they will not look as nice. When you're finished shooting, the camera needs to be in a safe location. It is your responsibility the whole time you have the camera in your possession. You are not to let non-DMC people touch or use the cameras ever. You do not hand our cameras to friends. You do not leave cameras laying around under the bleachers while you go run around and play with your friends. No. If you're done with the camera, it needs to go in your parents' car. It needs to go in the main office if it's unlocked and available. And if it's not, it needs to be on your shoulder with the bag closed and zipped up at all times. Okay? Next, you're going to take your quiz, and then after that, you get to play with all these things I've just talked about and wander around with the camera for a little bit, and then you'll be ready to go to check out a camera for sports. Thank you.